gremlins! Today I'm redrawing the second part of my 8th grade art project, which I introduced to you in the video linked in the cards. The first drawing in this series was a mermaid. Today I'll be redrawing an image of 2 unicorns. In case you didn't watch my last redraw video, this project was an independent art project when I was in the last semester of middle school. My goal was to create several photorealistic images of the magical creatures from my personal made-up world, Fairyland. Unfortunately, between the limits of the program I was using and my own lack of technical skill, the images did not turn out as I wished they had. Now, years later, I'm revisiting these images and recreating them, with a different goal in mind, and talking through the Fairyland lore connected to them as I work. Out of the 3 artworks from this 6-year-old project, this unicorn drawing is probably the best. I think the composition holds up, unlike the mermaid I fixed. The colors are a little bright, but that works with the world building attached to this drawing. The horses are actually drawn properly, because almost every element of this drawing was traced. The problems with this image arise in the details. The shading is once again too flat, since the program I used, Adobe Illustrator, isn't designed to work with complex shading and digital painting. A lot of the good details in the original image are only good because they are stolen images. The grass, mountain texture, and the tree trunks are all images I found online. Another problem with this image is the horns. While most of the image is fairly flat, the horns are made with Adobe Illustrator's limited 3D tool, making them way too 3D compared to the image around them. The weakest parts of this image, in my opinion, are the manes and tails, the shading, and the stream. In the redraw, I'm keeping the composition the same, but drawing the details for myself rather than stealing them. I found reference images on drawing horses, since I do not draw horses often and don't remember how they work. However, I did draw the unicorns for myself. They are not traced. Like last time I redrew one of these pieces, my goal is no longer photorealism. I was aiming for realism when I drew the original image and missed the mark. However, now I much prefer drawing in my personal style. I find it more fun and less likely to end up in the uncanny valley. The image will be shaded and detailed, but will also have black outlines, like the rest of my work on this channel. The big recognizable feature of Fairyland unicorns is their rainbow manes and tails. That detail of these creatures has been consistent since before I was in school at all, and I don't know what particular rainbow magical horses inspired that. When executed well, I think the brightly colored hair looks really good against the pale coat of the unicorns. However, it is a logistical challenge to draw. I tried 3 different methods of drawing and detailing the hair. My first attempt was to just fill in the mane and tail with a flat rainbow gradient. This works for the flat color stage of my art, but contains no detail, which is not my goal for this image. I then tried to detail the hair with a hair texture brush I downloaded, but that didn't provide the results I hoped for. Finally, I restarted the mane and drew each individual hair. I developed this method of drawing hair when I was in my realism digital painting era. I don't use it anymore for human hair. It tends to look too detailed for my style and is time-consuming, but it's still a useful method in some circumstances. The method is that I draw a bunch of strands of hair in a bright color, then create another layer below, choose a different bright color, and do the same. After several layers, I add a flat layer at the back to prevent any gaps from appearing between the strands. I then lock those layers and recolor them, shading them almost to match. When the shading doesn't quite line up, or the colors between layers are a little bit different, you can see sections of the strands among the hair as a whole. In this case, I didn't use the hair method to shade the hair, just to create the rainbow gradients. I created a quick color palette with a few shades of each color, then colored the strands, making each layer a slightly different shade, going darker at the bottom to lighter at the top. The other detail of Fairyland unicorns is their metallic horns and hooves. Unicorns are born hornless, with silver hooves. Their horns grow in their first year of life, also appearing silver. When young unicorns, who I named Eulogoops as a 4-year-old child and the name stuck, mature at 4 years old, their horns and hooves turn from silver to gold. I have never been great at drawing metal. However, I figured out a good method for this drawing. I wear a lot of silver rings, and realized I could see different colors that make up silver on my fingers, and copy that into my drawing. I quickly created a diagram of those colors for myself, and used that to color the hooves and horn, with a lot of contrast between the dark and light sections, to make them look metallic and shiny. I did the same with the gold horns and hooves, although I had to borrow some gold jewelry from my mother as reference. I've understood for a while that metal is made of a lot of colors with a strong contrast between the highlights and the shadows, but I'd never thought to use jewelry to figure out what those colors are. I think this method worked really well. This is the best metal I've drawn as far as I know. I first started coming up with personal unicorn facts in preschool. I had a project where I had to color in a unicorn as part of a series of animal coloring pages for each letter of the alphabet. Unicorn was the only fantasy animal in that series. My mother expanded the project by having me write out a few facts about each animal. She did the actual writing, of course. When we came to the unicorn page, I made up the facts myself. It was then that I decided that baby unicorns are called Eulogoops. From there, I created more information about unicorns in service to my broader Fairyland world building. Unicorns are domesticated for transportation and milk. Their milk is sweet and pink in color, and used in a lot of Fairyland food. It can, of course, be turned into butter and yogurt and other dairy products. Unicorns have been hunted for their horns in the past, but that practice has since been banned by the Queen of Fairyland. All unicorns have white coats with rainbow manes and metal horns and hooves. Their eyes are purple. Unicorns in the wild live in herds of 10 to 20. Each herd has a head male who cares for the females and young. Male unicorns leave their herds when they mature to find their own herd. Young males may create bachelor groups until they are strong enough to take over a herd. When I was searching for more information that I wrote down about unicorns, I found the wildlife book I was creating in 8th grade. This was the end goal of the art project. Each of the pages had an illustration that I drew and a block of text about the creature. Here is the spread about unicorns, or their scientific name, Equus cornu. Here is the page on the mermaid, which I covered in my last video on this topic. The background is a quintessential fairyland landscape. The trees are very obviously inspired by the truffula trees from the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. However, rather than round tufts of brightly coloured fluff at the top of a long, thin trunk, the trees of fairyland look like pine trees, but with softer and colourful needles. I am not actually sure if the leaves of these trees are needles. I don't think I ever decided the texture of these trees. Also, I tried really hard to figure out what I called these trees, because I'm sure they had a name, but I can't find it anywhere, even in my dozens of documents and drawings about fairyland that I've been creating all through late elementary and middle school. In this image, I kept the same 4 trees visible in the original image, but moved them around. There is a purple tree in the original drawing, but it is almost entirely covered by the orange tree, so I moved it to the other side of the stream, where it is clearly visible on the bright green grass. Speaking of that grass, normally in these redraws I desaturated the colours that I made way too bright when I was young. However, in this case, it makes sense for the colours to be bright. That's just part of the world building of fairyland. Everything is bright and colourful. Behind the grassy meadows and trees, there are 2 mountains on the horizon. From left to right, they are Griffin Crag and Dragon Peak. These 2 mountains are the biggest geographical features in fairyland. Dragon Peak is the tallest mountain on the continent. When I created the original image, I did not know how to draw water. The stream is one of the weakest parts of the image. Its style does not match the rest of the illustration. Even when starting the new image, I wasn't sure how I would draw the stream. I was determined to keep it, and figure out how to draw water. Between using several reference images and half-remembered online tutorials, I think I did pretty well. I started by copying the sky gradient in the water, then blocking in some colour from the trees near the stream, as well as the long blades of grass. I blurred the layer and used a blending tool to create a rippling effect. Finally, I added some layers of blue to make it look more like water. I think it worked really well, definitely better than my previous attempt. This redraw was a challenge, not because of the content, but because of the bar I set. The unicorn illustration was the best illustration out of the 3 from this project. There are definitely issues with it, but it holds up. I think I improved the image in this redraw, but I'd love to hear feedback. I improved the lighting and shading, the water, and the detail. I drew the details for myself rather than using photos. There's one more drawing from this project that I want to remake. Subscribe to see me tackle it in a few weeks. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye!